Conjuring: The Last Rites. This is a movie that I've been looking forward to for quite some time now. This is a movie franchise that I have really enjoyed for the most part. James Wan does a good job of starting off franchises and making them look really good, like with the Saw stuff, but things do get convoluted as time goes on, and this franchise is no different. So we've seen a lot of movies within the franchise like The Curse of La Llorona or the Annabelle movies in general. Like, those are all films that were supposed to be a part of this big grand Conjuring franchise that just didn't really get the legs underneath it that it needed to take off, because for one reason or the other, usually because movies weren't that good. But I want to sit here today and tell you guys about if this film franchise closed on a high note and how good The Conjuring: The Last Rites actually is.
You're now watching The Captain.
Y'all, I literally just came back from the movies, like just walked in the house, and I'm going to sit down and, try to give you guys my thoughts on this as best as possible. When I'm looking at this movie, I'm going to review it in the same way that I review all movies on my channel. I'm going to look at this thing as an objective film first and foremost, and it's going to be non-spoilery. So a lot of the things that I like about the film I'm going to talk about, and then in the second half of the video is going to get into more of the spoiler stuff with like the plot and maybe what I thought about that. Starting off, we're going to get into the way that this thing was filmed and the cinematography of it. So getting into the cinematography, I want to give a big thanks and shout out to Mr. Michael Chavez, the director of the film, and Mr. Eli Bourne, the director of photography for this film. They did a pretty good job. In regards to a lot of the directorial stuff being used to build up suspense and jump scares, it was done pretty well. And that's what we're here for, right? With a horror movie, we're here for the scares. A lot of the scares in this film felt like they were done pretty well. Usually in some horror movies, you have it to where they force a jump scare, or they're trying to get cheap scares out of you by just having random moments of loud music or a scary face pop on the screen at a time that wasn't built up to, or that wasn't really earned. I feel like with jump scares in the horror movies, I need to be like brought along this ride of like being put on the edge of my seat before you scare me. If you just throw a loud noise in randomly to try to get a scare out of me, yeah, you got me, you made me jump out of my skin, but now I'm angry because it was cheap and it wasn't well done. This film is not that. This film does a good job of that. And a lot of the scares they have in here are built up and anticipated throughout the film later on. Like, you'll be in a moment with characters earlier in the film and see them do something. And if you've seen a lot of horror movies, you can kind of tell like, okay, we're gonna go back to this moment later on, and this moment is gonna be something that is used to terrify you. Taking moments that are used in joy and just everyday things and mundane things, and then later on those being the things that scare the hell out of you. Well done there. Also in regards to the actual design of a lot of the ghosts or demons within this, that was really well done. So shout out to the special effects department and people that did the makeup for that, because I think that is something that the Conjuring franchise, even in the bad movies for like The Curse of La Llorona or The Nun, have always been really good at making these demons look terrifying. I remember for a long time, people were always scared of the nun, the woman that's playing the nun, Valak. She just looks terrifying in that makeup. I literally remember the day that movie came out and everybody in school was talking about how scary and freaky she was in general. Her, the Crooked Man, there's again, laundry list of different demons that were shown throughout this film franchise that just looked great, designed really well. Getting into the writing of the film, I thought the writing for this was actually top notch. I honestly believe that a lot of the moments where families are talking, and this is something that the Conjuring franchise has usually been very good at, is making these families feel like they're actual families. You have dialogue in where they're kind of having witty banter with each other, having moments where they show like they care for one another, and they make you really care for the characters, for the Warrens, as well as the family that's being haunted. I think the Smurls is the name of the family. And even doing a great job of introducing a new character, because in this film we're introduced to the son-in-law of the Warrens. Tony is his name. A person that actually exists in real life as well, like the Warrens. And we get introduced to him in the beginning of this film, and they spend a solid amount of time introducing him. And that's something that I really want to get on next in regards to the pacing of this film, because they spend a lot of time building up to these families and building up characters like Tony or the Smurl family, so for you to get endeared with them. We spend a lot of time on this. Again, everything is real sweet, kind, and just for like the whole first half of the film, and then we get into the demon stuff. Now, I enjoy the fact that they were able to make me care about this family, but I do think the pacing was a little slow. I think they took a little too long to get to some of the demon stuff. I think they could have really brought a lot of the scares and the demon activity and mixed them a little bit better between all those things, because we got bits of it here and there, but at least for my personal taste, I think it took a little bit too long. The demon in this film, and most of the demons throughout this franchise, have all had some kind of lore behind them. And I think this is where I really want to talk about the franchise as a whole, because this franchise has had a issue in the past with convoluted storylines, to where, and really not even just storyline, the timeline for the most part, where we've jumped back and forth throughout time from the Nun films to the Annabelle stuff, to where we're seeing these demons haunt or possess people or objects, and we're seeing them encounter the Warrens back and forth, and then and seeing new concepts introduced. Again, there's a lot of stuff going on with this franchise. When I'm looking at this film franchise as an entire wrap up, when you try to sit down and introduce me to all these different demons and build up this lore for these demons, and then in your final movie, you give me a demon that is arguably more personal in regards to its relationship to your family than any other demon up until this point, and then you don't really capitalize on stuff. But again, that's a lot of details we'll get into when it comes to the plot synopsis in a minute. But all in all, it's a fun film. Again, I think for the most part, this movie is pretty solid. Like it's pretty solid. It's a movie that you're not a big horror fan or you're just a casual horror fan, you'll probably go into this enjoying this. Hell, I even think me as an avid horror fan went into this movie and enjoyed myself. It was fun. But if you're looking for something that's really like well written and thought out in regards to the plot, you're not going to get that as much here. It's a lot of wonky stuff going on in regards to the plot. In itself, in a vacuum, the movie's solid. But when you think back to this movie being connected to other movies and the things that happen in the other movies, you're kind of just like, I don't know what we're doing here. But getting into the spoiler portion. So again, people, if you haven't watched this movie, please stop the video here, go watch it, come back. If you don't care about spoilers, continue to watch. This movie to me did not feel like a good bow to wrap up on this franchise. It felt like there's a lot more meat on the bones from this franchise. I still am one of the personal opinion that feels like with the Conjuring franchise, instead of giving me a bunch more movies, or instead of giving this movie, I should have gotten like a 10 to 12 episode show, like an HBO Max series where we watch the Warrens tackle case to case, especially when we get told within not just this movie, but other movies that the Warrens have looked at and tackled like over 1,000 cases. And then we see all the different things within their room of curiosities, for example, essentially with all the different haunted and possessed or cursed items that are used and different things of that nature. Like, you can't show me all these things and then only give me a few movies where they really tackle it for the most part. I would have preferred a series, especially when you're looking at the best part of this movie being Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson being Ed and Lorraine Warren. These two get along like peanut butter and jelly, in my opinion. I always love seeing them on screen and the journeys they go on. The movies that they're in, for the most part, outside of the first and second Conjuring movie, in my opinion, pretty mediocre. But those two make the film shine. I feel like that whenever they're on screen together, they make magic happen. Even in the sweet moments where you're looking at something like The Conjuring 2, where you see Ed playing Elvis to the family in Britain, or you're seeing them in any other moment where they're terrified for one another. You feel their love they have for each other. And I think they just have really good chemistry at this point. Outside of them, there's not a lot of super standout roles, in my opinion here. I think the daughter, Judy, I can't remember the name of the actress that played her. She did a solid job. And I think the person that played her husband, Tony, he did a solid job. But for the most part, this movie is still heavily carried by the Warrens and by Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson. But to get into the literal plot of the film, for anybody that is curious, this movie pretty much takes place in the late 1980s, so like around 1986, to where you're seeing Ed and Lorraine Warren kind of come to the end of their journey of being paranormal investigators. We get a flashback back to their very first case where they are investigating the store that has this suicide there, where this person who owned the store murdered himself because it was a haunting going on, and it was bothering that man and also bothering his daughter that he left behind. She was mentioning that her father said that he heard voices. She didn't believe him. He ends up offing himself, and then later on she says she starts to hear voices and that she has this feeling of things being very quiet. And you see in this moment where she's describing this, a moment that's very similar to like the movie Dead Silence, if you guys have seen that film, where all the sounds kind of feels like it's being sucked out of a room to where you hear things going on in the background, but it feels like you're in this like chamber of silence. It's a cool design choice as far as the directors go. But the issue that I'm starting to have here is that, again, we're flashing back to the beginning of the Warrens' journey again, because I feel like we've kind of done this before when we're looking at different aspects of them supposed to have one of their first cases being them encountering Valak, and Valak is being built up to be like this big antagonist to the Warren family. But now we're going back to the very first case, and now there's another demon who is even a bigger threat to them, because it's not just a threat to them, it's a threat to their daughter. Because during this case, Lorraine interacts with this cursed mirror that holds this demon, and this demon triggers her birth to be premature. And then you see their daughter Judy come out, and she's stillborn. She has the umbilical cord wrapped around her neck, and she, is dead upon delivery. But then after like praying and begging from Lorraine, the baby's brought back to life. This is where I have a little bit of confusion because it's almost like portrayed as if the demon from the mirror that she interacted with not only forced the early delivery, but was like in delivery room and maybe possibly saved Judy and brought her back to life. Like they never really clarify as to how she came back to life. We just assumed that she was just a miracle child, even though we saw a little demon crawling into the delivery room with them as they were going through this whole thing. So that's one thing where I was kind of like, okay, we're not going to clarify how that happens or whatever it may be. But all we know from that moment is that because of this, the demon is like connected to Judy for some form or fashion or for whatever reason. And Judy, like her mother, is kind of clairvoyant to a sense, or has the ability to perceive the spirit world. She'll see demons and things of that nature, and it's scaring the hell out of her because, again, obviously, as you would think, she's a little girl seeing demons and she's terrified. And you go through this whole stint of like her and her mother finding ways to kind of push her senses down. Now, when we're getting into the film later on, we now jump from the first case in the 60s to now their last, like around the time of their last case in 1980s. The thing that I'm having issue with now is that all of a sudden we're seeing this family who purchased this mirror, as you always see how it goes in movies, where they buy this random old piece of furniture or thing that's cursed, and then it ends up haunting the whole family. This pretty much happens here, where this entire family is haunted by this cursed mirror, and this cursed mirror is fucking with the family. We then have the Warrens who at this point are retired because they do this thing where they're going back to this whole thing of Ed having a heart issue and him possibly dying. It's something that we saw kind of expounded upon in the previous Conjuring film, The Devil Made Me Do It, to where Ed has a whole heart attack during an exorcism and he almost dies. And for the same reasoning in that film, they're kind of forced to retire because, you know, Ed can't have another heart attack or he'll probably pass away. But this is kind of like, it's like a tease, because in the beginning of the film, we're told that the Warrens retire because there is a major thing that hurt and broke up their family during this case. By the end of this film, nothing crazy happens. Ed even has another heart attack, but he doesn't die. So it felt like I was lied to. You told me you built this thing up to be this major thing, from not only in scenes where they're talking about his condition, but even in like quick text roll, you're telling me that something tragic happened. But literally all that happened was that they were scared to death, not literally, and then everybody walked away and lived up a great life after the fact. And they even like rolled through the credits of showing like the Warrens' life after the fact. And I'm just like, okay, what was the point of this? You built up this final demon to be this big boss for them to take on. At the end of the day, it does nothing. It feels kind of similar to The Nun for a lot of ways, where you saw the nun just pop up behind people and not really do shit until the end of the film. It was kind of like that in here, but it was actually attempting to fuck with people. But not only do we find out through the film that this mirror is not only cursed, and it's the same mirror that Lorraine and Ed faced in their first case, and not only the first demon, we then find out that this demon, for whatever reason, is a demon that has control over other spirits that are within the mirror. Because I guess there was this whole situation back in the day to where this woman had an affair on her husband, told him, and then he proceeded to murder her and her mother, which is, again, kind of weird. So this demon is like controlling these three spirits who are like went through all this murder and rage, and is using these three demons to mess with this family, but then also is trying to get back to the Warrens to possess the body of Judy. And this is, again, where it's kind of confusing me, because in prior films, we've seen that a big motivator for demons to mess with people is to possess their bodies and use their bodies to commit insidious acts and horrendous acts, or even leave the areas that they're trapped in. We saw Valak do it. We saw this with, I can't remember the name of the demon that was possessing the Annabelle doll. I think it was something of the sort, something with the M. We've seen every demon just about in this film franchise have that as a goal. So I'm thinking in my mind, hey, we're going to run this back and we're going to have it to where Judy is going to be a prime target to be possessed, because she's not only a young person, but has some kind of spiritual ability, which in the Nun film, we learned that the spiritual ability was like the ability of like a holy saint that was able to give Valak power to be a literal angel again. Again, how this shit works is weird. So again, all this built up, you would think that Judy is being built up to be possessed so she can do crazy shit. And at a certain point, she does. So we see Judy go and run to go to visit his family to help them out because one of their friends, Father Godfrey, gets murdered by one of these demons that are within his home. And then as she gets there, she brings her mother and her father along, obviously. So now this demon is reunited with the Warrens, and they're trying to exorcise this demon, and they realize, oh, this demon isn't here for this family, the demon is here for us, and not only us, but here for Judy. After a while, the demon possesses Judy and is letting the mother know, like, hey, we've been waiting for her, thanks for bringing her back to us. And they possess her, But then they go to try to make her, you know, off herself like they've done with every other character. So my whole thing is, why would this demon wait and be patient for like 20 plus years, finally possess the person it wanted to possess from the beginning, as it made it seem like it wanted to possess her as a baby, only to make her off herself? And again, it's confusing. And then by the end of the film, once we finally like exorcise the demons from this mirror, and they take the mirror and they put it back into their, you know, their safe of demonology, I guess, back at their home that is everything blessed and trapped within, we still never get two things. We never get explanation on what that demon was, or even the name of the demon, or why the demon was so attached to the Warrens, nor do we get a understanding of why that demon was trying to make Judy off herself. Again, it's very confusing. This film feels like they were writing their ass off in the first half, and like a lot of attention was spent in making this film in the first half of the film, because you saw a lot of buildup of the families, and you getting really ingratiated with them and their relationships, and they were even building up a little bit of tension and a little bit of foreshadowing with the demon. And then when you get to the second half, it felt like they were like past the deadline and they said, just wrap this shit up and finish this movie out. Because that's what this felt like. This felt like a rushed second half that didn't have a lot of well written out details. So all in all, when I'm looking at this film, I'm probably gonna rate it like a solid 7. I think it was a fun movie for the most part, but this movie really disappointed me in regards to a finale and a bow being wrapped on the Conjuring franchise. I think there is so much more meat on the bones of this franchise you could have did with the television show, especially if you were able to bring in Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson back in to use their amazing chemistry that they have together. But this is a pretty mediocre movie, and I'm kind of sad to say that, because I feel like we've been getting a lot of dope horror like over the last couple months with weapons and things like that. So to get this, I'm kind of like, ah. And then I was already pissed off even more, and I wanted to fucking fight the director because they decided to throw a dog against a wall. They didn't hurt an actual dog in this film. Maybe not a real life dog, but a dog was hurt during this film, and it pissed me off. If you gonna hurt a dog, you making this demon seem like it's the most evil thing in the world, and in my eyes it is, because why are you fucking with the puppies? But for it to do all that stuff and for me to leave and not really know anything about it, I don't know. Y'all let me know in the comment section below if I was missing some context in regards to what this demon was, or if they mentioned this demon in any of the other prior movies. But for the most part, when I'm looking at this Conjuring franchise, I'm looking at this thing having another issue that James Wan franchises have, where he starts them out, they're amazing, they're really well done, and then after a while, it's like he gets bored, like with this, with the Insidious, with Saw. James Wan gets bored and lets other people take over the franchise, and he's mostly just there in a like overseer capacity. And then the movies just kind of tank because they don't have the same vision or even the same bit of writing. Especially with this, to where you tried to have multiple spin-off movies and demons with La Llorona, with the Nun. Now, I think the Crooked Man was even planned at a certain point, but all these movies fell through because they just weren't written with the same vision. They just weren't really well done. Again, y'all let me know what you think about the Conjuring movie in regards to the Last Rites and the franchise as a whole in the comment section below. If you guys have made it this far in the video, obviously you guys have enjoyed the video, so please do me a favor, hit the like button on this video so that it can be shared to more people, hype the video so my channel can be shared to more people, and subscribe to the channel if you want to be more informed into what other content I put out. I know I probably rambled a lot in my review on this film, again, fresh thoughts on it, but I don't know, man. I'm just disappointed. I'm really disappointed. I would like the show. That's all I'll say for it. That's my final thoughts. So again, I gave it a 7 out of 10. Y'all let me know what y'all giving it out of 10 in the comment section below. This has been Captain Diesel of Captain Diesel's Dojo, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.